Okay, so the big news today, the Pac-12 and Big Ten have canceled their fall football season, and in my entire life, I didn't think I would ever see something like that happen. But I'm going to try to get you through what happens next. All right, this is an important day, obviously. Will the SEC still play? How about the ACC? And what about the Big 12? Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. And I'm gonna try to make everyone smarter. I'm not sure I've got all the answers right now, but I can sort of forecast where we're going to some degree. Um, First things first, the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the Pac-12 canceling is not really a surprise. That's something that the Detroit Free Press had earlier this week on Monday. There was some pushback from folks, but that was coming, and it did. And so then soon thereafter, I mean, right afterwards, you saw the Pac-12 being the bridesmaid that they've been for so long now to the Big Ten. They came flying in and doing the same thing. You know, Greg Sankey from the SEC is being very clinical about what the league is doing right now. It's pretty clear the SEC is trying to buoy up enough support that they can get the Big 12 to play. This is coming down very basic. This is simple. This is what is the Big 12 going to do? If the Big 12 proceeds, we're going to have a college football season with those three conferences and a smattering of the American Athletic Conference and Sun Belt and teams like that. If the Big 12 cancels, I think this is over. I do not see how. I mean, I don't see how the SEC will continue if it's just the SEC and the ACC. It's I'm not saying it's impossible. It's very hard for me to see how that would happen. Greg Sankey today was talking about how, could the SEC go alone? And he said yes, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. And Georgia starts classes soon. Practice is in 6 days. We are running on top of this coming to a head. And I think what the SEC has said is we're moving forward. We're not saying 100% that we're playing, but we're moving forward. And today you saw with the Big Ten and the Pac-12, they said 100% we're out. And now, the Big Ten is discussing playing in the spring. I don't know how you do that up there. I mean, you couldn't start the spring until, at the earliest, it would be probably middle March. And then you'd be turning around, 5 months, 4 months later and playing and starting another season in theory then in the fall. I'm very skeptical of that. But what we're on here with the knife's edge with the SEC deals exactly with what's going to happen with the Big 12. And I do want to read you the direct quote in the text message that I had today from someone who's been right about this for some time who is in media. I said, so this is basically up to the Big 12 because, that's what it looks like. And their response back was, I believe so, and I believe they want to play. And the dynamic there, of course, is Texas and Oklahoma have, I think, made clear that they would like to proceed. But in that conference, you still have to deal with, I think these three schools are problematic. Iowa State has been very vocal about their financial situation. I'd have to imagine that Iowa State is one of the schools that is being very, concerned about moving forward. You have the private schools, Texas Christian as well as Baylor. Those two schools are not like the public schools. They can't do, they can do whatever they want, but often private schools have funding problems. It's just the way that it is. What's the biggest, most successful private school in college football? USC. It's not been great for them here lately, but USC is an outlier. Look at Miami's problems. Most privates are not good at football. Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Stanford is average at best. Stanford just cut like a slew of sports. That should show you the private school situation. So I think in the Big 12, If I had to guess right now, my guess would be that they will move forward, which would mean the SEC and ACC would move forward. I cannot see a situation personally where the SEC would move forward without a legitimate college football playoff happening at the end of the season. That's another hurdle in the way right now, which is that the college football playoff has a committee, and that committee is going to have to decide whether they move forward. Meanwhile, there are several people on that committee who are not ACC, SEC, Big 12 people. There are plenty of Pac-12 and Big 10 people on that committee. So that's another problem. Would the SEC, ACC, and beyond move forward without a college football playoff? My guess is that the college football playoff would proceed. There are no certainties right now with anything. I mean, it just makes me think about the Rose Bowl. Would the Rose Bowl exist this fall? I mean, obviously their traditional matchup is gone, but would they do it without a college football playoff? I mean, probably not. So this really is, what we thought would happen has happened. Now we're at the moment where, genuinely speaking, we can't know what is really next. My suspicion is that the Big 12 will say, yeah, let's move forward. That's my suspicion. And I think that Greg Sankey would not be out there like he is right now. I mean, on Monday, he tweets out a statement saying, we don't know 100% that we're going to play, but we would like to, and we're moving forward, and that's it. The ACC today, an interview with the Sports Business Journal. These are really good outlets. The physician for the ACC said, it's difficult. It's a guy from Duke, a doctor from Duke, said, it's difficult, but we can do it. So that just means to me that those two conferences are ready to roll. The real question here is the Big 12. And these guys can't get together on anything. I mean, they barely function as a conference as is. You got West Virginia, which makes no sense. Okay, it's not contiguous to any of those schools and states. You've got the 4 schools in Texas, Texas, Baylor, and TCU. And, of course, the 2 Oklahomas, the 2 Kansas, and then Iowa State. I mean, I don't know what West Virginia fits in this, but I hadn't even thought about West Virginia until just now. But that's how bizarre the Big 12 is. They're so bizarre that their name doesn't even match how many schools they have in their conference. I mean, it's crazy. And the infighting in that league has been pretty serious for a long time. But the 2 schools that run that show, Texas and Oklahoma, they want to move forward. And make no mistake about it, Texas is the one that really does run that conference. It's not Oklahoma. Oklahoma is just, there. They're just there to whip Texas's ass in football all the time. But in terms of the whole conference, that is a Texas conference. It's powered everything. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas today, saying that he would not get in the way of teams playing. The Big 12 is so unpredictable. It's really hard to know. But now your fate as leagues in the SEC and the ACC, and I don't think I'm being dramatic here, your fate is pretty much now predicated on the Big 12 saying yes, or at least not yet saying no. I do want to have one more other point here about the Big 10 and the Pac-12. A lot of people are going to vilify the Big 10 for its decision today, and I am not going to be one of those people. I think you have to listen to your medical experts and the physicians that are in your situation. I think the Big 10 is making the right decision for the Big 10. Even though Michigan, Ohio State, and Nebraska, and I think Iowa are freaking out about it. This is the group that you're in. You have made this bed. You're choosing to live in this world. And that's the decision that league made. If Missouri didn't want to play football and it was in the SEC, that would be a problem for Missouri, right? So I just think that we're going to see a world war. We've already gotten in our tribes. No one cares about the Big 12, but everyone's ready to kill the Big 10. It's just overdone. It's just the same way that I don't want to hear the Big 10 talking about how there's no safety for the kids in the ACC and the SEC, because that's ridiculous to say. I think that these conferences have reached different conclusions, but they have done so trying to do their best. and there's no participation trophies for this one. I just know this: if the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 are going to play, they better be damn sure that nothing happens to some of these kids. Because not only, a public relations nightmare would be nothing compared to the loss of the life of one of these kids. That would be a major problem. It would be horrific. So that's the part that I think makes me a little concerned. But Greg Sankey's no fool, and he knows what he's doing. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. I'm going to get you to this 2020 playlist. Thanks to everybody for going to the site lately. We've seen a pretty big spike from everybody on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Check out the playlist, and we'll see you tomorrow.